I want to hear more about, I guess, the influence or the impact of the classics in the Black intellectual tradition in America.
Okay.
Right? It's like, what role have they played? I don't know if you can think, I mean, you just listed off quite a few Black authors who referred to the classics, but can you say a little bit more about that, about how the classics have influenced Black intellectuals?
If I go back historically, when I first started this journey, so I've gone through an evolution in understanding this narrative. When I first started this journey, at the very beginning, I saw it as, it was a certain group of Black people who maybe went to college and had this type of education, and they were drawing from this. Okay. But then as I got deeper, it was like, more people were reading this. Oh, wait, this person didn't even go to college and they were reading it. And before long, I'm saying, wait, this is all they were reading. This is what my ancestors were reading. This was the education they had. It wasn't like it was only for this group. Now, you do have some who maybe took it further and went on to college and graduate school and got their doctorate in classics. But as far as the basic Black education, from slavery until probably around soon after desegregation, that was the only way Black people were educated.
Wow.
And so that's why. So to prove my point, if we look, and many people have heard this story before, but I just want to unpack again so people can really understand why Frederick Douglass chose the Columbian orator. We have to, if you look at that story, it'll help you understand. So Frederick Douglass was a slave. It was against the law for him to know how to read, against the law for him to write, against the law for him to even have a book in his hand, right? But he's so determined to own a book. After he's pretty much masters reading, he's 12. He saves his little pennies up to buy the Columbian Orator from a bookstore in Maryland. Now, that person who sold him the book was against the law too, but for whatever reason, he secretly sold Frederick Douglass this book. Why? And so Frederick Douglass had to walk into a bookstore. Why not pick any other books on the shelf? Why the Columbian Orator? And this is very important. This is where you know it's about the kind of education, because that was the one of the main textbooks used in schools in that time. So he is probably seeing school children, the master's children, the young people around him, the white young people around him, what their textbooks were. And he sees this book, the Columbian Orator. And that's the book he chooses. Now, that's while he's enslaved. And Frederick Douglass never had the privilege of going to formal school. Even after emancipation, he was completely self-taught all of his life, right? But he selects books based on the education he's seeing happening around him. Okay, so slavery ends. Abraham Lincoln, along with the Freedmen's Bureau and, there were different missionary groups as well, began to set up schools. Well, what kind of schools were these? The schools they set up for the newly freed people were classical schools. I'm not saying that because I think so. If you go behind, and Du Bois talks about it in his Souls of Black Folk. He lists these early Black schools that started off being schools to educate the newly freed people. And most of those schools went on to be HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. Their beginnings were in the classical tradition.